When I've been trying to tell these guys that you got to be in the system to realize the sentence you get. When certain stuff just don't weigh up, it's a mandatory 1-year sentence when you just get $5 worth of stuff.
Fetty Wap walked out of federal custody on January 8, 2026, and the timing alone set the internet on fire. After serving just 3 years on a 6-year federal drug trafficking sentence, people immediately started whispering that something wasn't adding up. Early release always brings questions, and in his case, those questions hit loud and fast. Almost instantly, rumors spread that he must have cooperated to get out early, and the streets started talking heavy. Then new footage surfaced showing alleged Opps moving in on him, and that's when things turned dark. Was this about cooperation? Was this retaliation? Was it something else entirely bubbling under the surface? The timeline matters, and the details tell a story that can't be ignored. The government paperwork lists him as Willie Jr. Maxwell II, and records show he officially walked free between January 7th and 8th, 2026. His original release date was set for 2029, but good behavior credits and federal time reductions pushed that date up fast. The Bureau of Prisons moved him into community confinement, meaning house arrest, not full freedom, even if it looks like it on social media. He's now on supervised release until November 2030, and that's a long leash held tight by the feds. 5 years of constant monitoring, zero room for mistakes, and rules that stay strict around the clock. Random drug testing, no opening bank accounts without permission, every dollar tracked, and no travel without approval.
What seems like damn near just a couple of years ago, because it was, holy smokes, we've seen 4 letters pop up. This one.
No alcohol, no substances unless prescribed, and no slipping up without serious consequences. Check-ins are mandatory. Ankle monitoring is always a possibility. And one violation sends him right back behind bars without debate. This isn't freedom the way fans imagine, it's still time being served just outside the walls. The pressure stays heavy, and the margin for error is basically non-existent. Still, the moment he touched down, the internet lit up. He posted that he was home on his IG story and followed it up with a short statement that had fans buzzing. By the afternoon of January 8th, videos started flooding social media showing him getting a loud welcome back in New Jersey. Crowds pulled up deep, family day ones, and supporters filled the block, and the energy felt unreal. One viral clip showed a whole crowd clapping, cheering, and shouting 1738, like it was 2015 all over again. The mood was pure celebration. No visible tension, no drama in the air, just love for someone who'd been gone for years. At that moment, everything looked peaceful. No signs of conflict, no smoke, just people happy to see their guy back home after a long stretch away.
He was arrested yesterday at Citi Field. It was during a music festival in the afternoon before he performed. He's one of 6 indicted for conspiracy to distribute more than 100 kilograms of controlled substances on Long Island and in New Jersey. And those arrested also include a New Jersey correction officer. Officials say Fetty Wap and others involved transported, distributed deadly and addictive drugs, including heroin and fentanyl on Long Island, deliberately contributing to the opioid epidemic.
But that calm didn't last long once people started digging back into how this whole situation began. He was arrested in October 2021 at Citi Field in New York, and that timing was no accident. He was scheduled to perform at Rolling Loud NYC that very day, one of the biggest hip-hop festivals in the world. Thousands of fans were waiting, and instead, federal agents made their move in full public view. He wasn't alone either. 5 others were arrested alongside him after a sealed indictment was unwrapped in Queens. The message was loud and intentional. This wasn't just an arrest, it was a statement. The feds wanted visibility, shock value, and a clear warning about what happens when fame collides with federal investigations. That public takedown marked the turning point from chart-topping success to a federal sentence, and the consequences have been unfolding ever since. Prosecutors laid it out, plain and heavy. They said Fetty Wap was tied to a bi-coastal drug operation moving work from California straight into New Jersey and Long Island. This wasn't some quick flip or short run either. The operation allegedly ran from June 2019 all the way through June 2020, and the weight involved was serious by any standard. According to the feds, the organization pushed over 100 kilograms combined of cocaine, heroin, fentanyl, and crack. That's not light traffic, not side hustle numbers. That's major league distribution. This was the kind of case federal prosecutors love because it checks every box they look for. The investigation itself dragged on for months, and that part matters. This wasn't a random traffic stop or a lucky break for law enforcement. This was planned, structured, and slow-cooked. Wiretaps, surveillance, financial trails, and informants all stacked up quietly before anyone made a move. When the hammer finally dropped, the seizures told the story loud. The feds recovered around $1.5 million in cash, along with cocaine, fentanyl, pills, firearms, and ammunition. This wasn't corner store activity or street-level hustling. This was organized distribution, moving product across state lines with real infrastructure behind it. At first, he managed to post bail and walk free while waiting for trial, which surprised a lot of people. But that freedom didn't last long at all.
The multi-million-dollar drug distribution used Suffolk County as their home base. We're told the defendants would get drugs on the West Coast and use the U.S. Postal Service and drivers with hidden compartments to transport the drugs across the country to Suffolk County where they were stored. Fetty Wap's role, according to officials, a kilogram-level redistributor for the trafficking organization.
In August 2022, the court yanked his bail completely, and the reason made things even uglier. Prosecutors said he violated his release conditions during a FaceTime call by allegedly threatening to murk someone. Reports claimed he flashed a gun, used the word rat, and implied retaliation towards someone he believed had cooperated. It's the fastest way to end pretrial freedom in federal court, no debate. Federal judges don't play with threats, especially when witnesses or cooperators are involved. That signals danger, disrespect for the process, and zero self-control under supervision. Once that line gets crossed, it's over. Later that same month, he took a plea deal. He pleaded guilty to 1 count of conspiracy to distribute and possess controlled substances, specifically at least 500 grams of cocaine. That charge alone carries a mandatory minimum of 5 years, and the move was calculated. Fentanyl changed everything in federal court. Once that word appears in charging documents, the temperature drops instantly. The opioid crisis has courts operating with zero tolerance, and prosecutors treat fent cases like direct contributions to mass death. Defense lawyers know this reality. Fighting a fent-connected case means gambling with massive time if convicted at trial. Federal prosecutors already win around 90% of their trials. And with wiretaps, money trails, physical evidence, and cooperators, that number feels closer to guaranteed. Taking the plea meant accepting responsibility, securing a possible reduction, and avoiding the nightmare scenario of a sentence that could have doubled, or worse. In federal court, survival is strategy, and every move has consequences. If he had gone to trial and got found guilty, the outcome would have been brutal, and everybody involved knew that. This decision wasn't about pride or making a stand. This wasn't someone yelling they were innocent at the top of their lungs. This was a cold, calculated move to limit damage in federal court, where the odds are stacked heavy against defendants with real evidence on the table. In situations like this, pragmatism beats ego every time. When wiretaps, money trails, and multiple co-defendants are already lined up. Taking a plea often becomes the smartest survival play available, even if it looks ugly to the public. Sentencing went down on May 24, 2023, in Central Islip, New York, and the moment carried serious weight. The judge handed Fetty Wap 6 years in federal prison, followed by 5 years of supervised release. By that point, he'd already been locked up since August 2022, and that time was credited toward his sentence. Prosecutors didn't hold back during sentencing either, even tried to use his own lyrics against him, pointing to Trap Queen and arguing that the music reflected long-term involvement in the drug lifestyle. That tactic isn't new in federal court, and judges are allowed to consider it when weighing character and history. The court did acknowledge remorse and his responsibilities as a father, but it didn't move the needle enough to soften the outcome. The 6-year sentence stood firm, showing that federal judges might listen, but they don't bend easily. He served his time at Federal Correctional Institution Sandstone in Minnesota, starting in August 2022 and ending with his release in January 2026. All in, that's about 3 years and 5 months behind federal walls, and in the federal system, every day counts differently. Federal sentencing allows reductions through good conduct and structured programs, and that's where the timeline shifted. His original release date sat around 2029, but good behavior credits knocked it down to December 2026. Continued participation in approved programs pushed it even further, landing him a January 2026 release. Under federal law, inmates can earn up to 54 days per year for good conduct, plus additional credits through education, vocational training, and other approved activities under the First Step Act. Those credits stack quietly, and when they add up, they shave real time off a sentence. Despite the noise online, his legal team made one thing clear back in 2022. He did not cooperate with federal authorities. There's no testimony, no paperwork for substantial assistance, and no deals tied to snitching. The guilty plea stood alone, strictly as a legal strategy. Now he's on house arrest in New Jersey, overseen by the Bureau of Prisons through the Philadelphia Residential Reentry Management Office. His full release from confinement is projected for November 8, 2026, and until then, the leash stays tight. Random drug tests, full financial transparency, and strict movement restrictions mean the sentence isn't really over yet. It's just changed locations. The snitch talk hit fast and loud the second the early release became public. The timeline went crazy with questions flying everywhere.
Did Fetty Wap cooperate with the feds?
Did paperwork get signed behind closed doors? Did freedom come with testimony attached? In hip-hop culture, early releases always trigger suspicion, and reduced sentences almost automatically bring accusations with them.
Now, we was in the shop talking about the Fetty Wap case out of New Jersey. If 5 men on that case outside of him a conspiracy, he already had a domestic violence and a DV. Now, it was 220 grams of H and 10 pounds of Fent and also the C. And this man got a sentence of 6 years. That's highly unlikely for a man to get that much less time for that amount of illegal substance in the federal system unless he's working. That's impossible.
That label carries serious weight in street culture and rap communities. Being called a rat can wreck credibility, stall careers, and even create real-life safety issues. The rumors didn't start in 2026. Either they really picked up back in August 2022 when he entered a guilty plea. For some people watching from the outside, that plea alone looked like proof. The logic sounds simple to folks who don't understand federal cases. Why plead guilty unless you're cutting a deal? Why admit guilt unless you're giving someone up? That thinking spreads fast online, but it misses how federal criminal procedure actually works. In reality, guilty pleas in federal court do not automatically equal cooperation. There are plenty of reasons defendants plead guilty that have nothing to do with snitching. When prosecutors have wiretaps of conversations discussing drug transactions, surveillance footage of meetings, financial records showing unexplained cash flow, and multiple witnesses placing someone at the center of an operation, fighting becomes a losing battle. At that point, trial isn't bravery, it's gambling with decades. That's exactly where strategy comes in. His attorney stated clearly in 2022 that he was not cooperating with federal authorities. The lawyer emphasized the plea was standalone, with no testimony, no information given up, and no deals tied to assisting the government. He admitted responsibility for distributing 500 grams of cocaine and nothing more. There was no cooperation agreement filed. No substantial assistance motion, no courtroom testimony against co-defendants. Those details matter because real cooperation cases leave a paper trail, and that paper trail changes sentencing outcomes dramatically. In federal court, cooperation usually means major sentence cuts. Defendants who truly help prosecutors often receive sentences well below mandatory minimums. They testify, provide leads, help build cases.
When I was trying to tell these guys that you got to be in the system to realize the sentence you get. When certain stuff just don't weigh up, it's a mandatory 1 year sentence when you just get $5 worth of stuff. So you get anything over 5 grams is a mandatory 5 year sentence in the federal system. So how do a person get 5 years, 6 years, when it's mandatory 5 years for 5 grams? It's impossible.
And in return, prosecutors file motions asking judges to lower sentences significantly. That didn't happen here. He received 6 years with the mandatory minimum sitting at 5. That 1-year bump above the floor points to standard sentencing, not cooperation credit. If meaningful cooperation had happened, the sentence would almost certainly have been much lower. Once he touched down, speculation exploded all over again. Social media flooded with recycled questions asking how someone could serve just over 3 years on a 6-year sentence without telling. To people unfamiliar with federal sentencing, the math looked suspicious. But the answer isn't secret deals, it's federal time calculations. Good conduct time and First Step Act credits apply across the board to inmates who qualify. These reductions come from staying discipline-free, completing programs, and participating in approved education and training. Those credits stack quietly and systematically. Rewards for cooperation, they're incentives for behavior during incarceration. Thousands of federal inmates benefit from the same system every year. Plenty of voices stepped in to shut the rumors down. Some argued that doing time quietly without public drama or finger-pointing should be respected. Others pointed out the difference between snitching and self-preservation, especially when overwhelming evidence leaves no realistic path to victory. The debate kept going, but one thing stayed clear. Early release doesn't automatically equal cooperation, and federal math explains far more than internet speculation ever will. One online thread cut through the noise and set it straight. Snitching is saving yourself by throwing others under the bus, not making a smart legal move. The comment pointed out the obvious difference that a lot of people miss. Pleading guilty to reduce risk is strategy, not betrayal. That's chess, not panic. And there's a big gap between the two. What really matters is this. No new evidence has ever surfaced, backing up snitch allegations against Fetty Wap. Court records don't show any cooperation agreements. Prosecutors never filed substantial assistance motions. Co-defendant's cases moved forward without any sign that his testimony helped the government. The paper trail shows a clean, guilty plea and standard sentencing. Nothing extra, nothing hidden. Suspicion gets loud online, but suspicion isn't proof. The documented facts show a straightforward path. He pleaded guilty, served most of his sentence, earned standard federal credits, and got released early through established programs. That pattern isn't rare or shocking in the federal system. It happens every single day, even if social media pretends otherwise. This viewpoint gained traction online because some people looked at the drug quantities and said 6 years felt light. From there, they jumped straight to cooperation theories. But that logic skips key details and oversimplifies federal sentencing in a big way. Federal court doesn't sentence off vibes or rumors. It runs on guideline calculations. Judges weigh criminal history, acceptance of responsibility, role in the offense, and proven drug quantities. While the overall conspiracy allegedly involved over 100 kilograms, his personal charge was tied to 500 grams of cocaine. That distinction matters a lot. Sentencing focuses on what the individual is legally responsible for, not the entire organization's total weight. He also had limited prior criminal history and accepted responsibility early, both factors that reduce exposure under the guidelines. The mandatory minimum for his charge was 5 years. He received 6. That 1-year increase above the floor isn't suspicious at all. Judges routinely sentence defendants slightly above mandatory minimums based on guideline ranges and case-specific factors. If real cooperation had happened, the sentence would look completely different. Cooperation cases often end with 2 years, 3 years, or even time served. Prosecutors reward testimony heavily when it helps them build bigger cases. That didn't happen here. Instead, the record shows no cooperation filings, no testimony, no sentence reduction below the mandatory minimum.
I don't think Fetty can come home and shake it up again. Or is this one of them times where the streets still respect you, but the gang had already moved on? Is this the comeback waiting to happen, or is the closure for a run that already ended?
The music.
His attorney publicly denied any cooperation, and the court documents back that up. The snitch narrative keeps circulating because social media loves repetition. Echo chambers turn speculation into noise, but noise doesn't equal truth. The official record stays consistent, and it tells a much quieter story. He came home without paperwork, without testimony, and without a cooperation discount. In high-profile cases, that kind of clean record is actually rare, even if the internet refuses to let the rumors die. Usually, accusations fly instantly when somebody comes home early. Everybody points fingers. Everybody claims somebody else cooperated, and the noise gets loud fast. But here's the part people keep skipping over. The lack of widespread, credible accusations actually says a lot. When real paperwork exists, it leaks. When real cooperation happens, somebody talks. That silence suggests the rumors never had solid ground to begin with. What stands out even more is how Fetty Wap has been moving since touching down. His statement focused on community, work, family, and making something meaningful out of what's left.
Listen, man, shout out to Fetty Wap, bro. Shout out to him. You know, me personally on the music tip, I don't necessarily think it's over, but I think if he tries to go back and recreate that sound, I think that's going to be gone. He can add elements of that shit, but the question is, who's going to embrace him? Who is good enough in the rap game to embrace him? Because if I'm Drake, Iceman ain't came out yet. Get Fetty Wap on the hook on the beginning song. Fetty Wap, you know what to do. First Day Out the Feds, Part 2.
Those aren't any of the words of someone stressed about street validation or trying to defend their name every 5 minutes. That sounds like somebody locked in on rebuilding after heavy consequences. Behind the fake death rumors and recycled snitch talk sits a bigger question people keep circling. Does he face real threats now that he's home? To understand that, you have to look at history, past beefs, and where relationships actually stand today. So far, there are no credible reports of threats since his release on January 7, 2026. Searches tied to threats only pull up his own 2022 incident, where he allegedly threatened someone he believed cooperated, which got his bail revoked. That situation involved him making threats, not receiving them, and that distinction matters. Looking further back, yes, there were real conflicts. In 2017, tensions in Paterson, New Jersey escalated into gunfire connected to local rivalries. The situation involved Raheem Fuzz Thomas and stemmed from street issues that existed long before any federal case. Those were serious times with real consequences, no doubt about it. Time changes things. He spent years locked up while other players moved on, caught their own cases, or shifted focus entirely. Those old beefs appear dormant now, not active, not bubbling in public spaces. There were also business disputes. Former collaborator P. Dice filed a lawsuit over royalties, which brought financial tension into the mix. But music industry disputes usually play out in courtrooms, not on blocks. Lawsuits create stress, not street wars. Then came the family drama, and that part hit fast. Within 24 hours of his release, the mothers of his children, Ika Keisha and Leslie Lauder, publicly criticized him on X. They questioned his parenting and called him out for not showing up for his kids. The posts were harsh and personal, but again, that's not a threat. That's co-parenting conflict. It's emotional, messy, and embarrassing, but it doesn't signal violence. These are women demanding accountability for their children, not rivals plotting harm. Online criticism also popped up around his past and drug distribution. One comment claimed he contributed to youth harm through his actions. That's moral condemnation, not a threat.
We don't give a damn about your personal life, bro. We don't. We care about a time in our personal life when your music hit for us and created a moment, and then we listen to it and now we get nostalgic about it. We care about growth in your music. We don't give a shit about you, the person. You don't give a shit about us. You care about providing what the fans or people who support your music like, and the fans and supporters care about the music. That's the problem with these entertainers, because not at one point in time do y'all sit up here and really give back. Hell no, y'all don't. Y'all get sponsors, y'all get people that help out. Not saying that you should spend your own cash.
People expressing anger over real damage caused by drugs isn't the same as issuing danger signals. Here's the key point. When genuine threats exist, they almost always surface online first. Social platforms are where warnings get issued and tensions get aired out. Searches tied to his name bring up celebration videos, family disputes, and criticism, but no direct threats. No Opps talking wild, no warnings circulating. Right now, the noise is loud, but the danger signals are quiet. And in this world, that difference means everything. Major media coverage tells its own story, and that part often gets overlooked. TMZ's reporting on the release stayed strictly factual, focusing on logistics, timelines, and future plans. No talk of security fears, no hints at protective measures, no framing of danger lurking in the background. The New York Post did the same thing, breaking down early release mechanics and home confinement conditions without raising alarm bells. If credible threats were suspected, those outlets would have leaned into that angle immediately. The welcome home footage matters too. The video showed big crowds, open celebrations, and public gatherings with zero effort to stay low-key. That's not how someone moves if they believe danger is close. Showing up publicly, surrounded by people, sends a clear signal of comfort, not fear. His team wouldn't greenlight that kind of visibility if they thought something bad was coming. Several voices online echoed the same sentiment. Some excusers framed the release as a moment of respect, not conflict. One post highlighted the standing ovation energy, pointing out how rare it is for someone to come home without chaos attached. The takeaway was simple. How you carry yourself during your bid matters. Fetty Wap did his time quietly. No loud interviews, no reckless statements, no attempts to stir the pot while locked up. That restraint doesn't guarantee safety, but it absolutely lowers the temperature. People who avoid escalating drama during legal trouble usually return to less hostility than those who keep poking the fire. That brings up the bigger question everyone keeps dodging. What does what's next even look like for him? His legal troubles didn't happen at the peak of his career, they landed after it had already cooled off. Back in 2015, he was everywhere. Trap Queen dominated the culture, peaking at number 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 and flooding the industry with remixes and covers. That melodic trap sound reshaped the moment and influenced a whole wave of artists. He followed it up fast with hits like 679 and My Way, stacking bangers back to back. Grammy nominations followed, and his debut album went platinum. Then the momentum stopped. The assessment might sound harsh, but it reflects a common perception. He had a massive moment, a short window of dominance, but he never locked in as a long-term top-tier artist. The spotlight moved, and he didn't move with it fast enough. By the time federal charges hit in 2021, his music career had already faded significantly. The sound that made him famous became oversaturated. Other artists adopted similar melodic styles, the market shifted, and new trends took over. He struggled to evolve quickly enough to stay relevant in an industry that punishes hesitation. Later releases couldn't recapture the magic of Trap Queen, and personal struggles added weight to the decline. In 2021, he released the Butterfly Effect mixtape, dedicating it to his 4-year-old daughter, who tragically passed away in June of that year due to cardiac arrhythmia. That kind of loss changes everything. Grief hits creativity hard. Focus slips, priorities shift, and the hunger that once drove hit-making doesn't always survive tragedy intact. When you combine personal loss, industry shifts, and legal pressure, the collapse starts making more sense. So when he came home, the narrative wasn't about reclaiming a throne, it was about survival, rebuilding and redefining what life looks like after everything falls apart. While some artists turn pain into powerful records, others lose momentum when tragedy hits, and that split is real. During the pandemic, multiple posts framed Fetty Wap as a cautionary tale, not out of hate, but realism. Lockdowns shut down live performances, and touring is where artists actually make real money. Streaming checks alone don't carry careers, especially for artists whose peak already passed. When live shows disappeared, artists who relied on performance income felt it instantly. If his music sales were already slowing, losing touring money would have created intense financial pressure. That context doesn't excuse illegal choices, but it does explain how someone ends up back in risky territory when options shrink fast. Now he's facing an even tougher comeback. The music industry doesn't wait for anyone. 3 years away is forever in this business. Trends flip, new faces pop up, and audiences move on without looking back. Streaming platforms reward constant activity, fresh drops, and non-stop promotion, not legacy alone. Nostalgia helps, but it only goes so far. Trap Queen is still a cultural moment. People remember 2015, the vibe, the feeling, the era. But memories don't equal sustainable careers. You can't live off one chapter forever, no matter how iconic it was. The path forward isn't about recreating the past. That moment is gone. The real question is whether he can evolve without losing his identity. He could blend elements of his signature sound into something modern, but that opens new challenges. Who's willing to collaborate? Which producers take the risk? Do established artists want a feature? Will labels even pick up the phone? His legal history complicates everything. Some labels and artists avoid anyone fresh out of the federal system because of stigma, restrictions, and uncertainty. Others may respect that he did his time and stayed quiet. Some might see value in the story, others just see risk. Here's the brutal truth that fans don't always say out loud. People care about music, not redemption arcs. Statements about community work and helping youth sound good, but they don't automatically turn into streams or ticket sales. The market doesn't reward intention, it rewards records that hit. There's also real discomfort among listeners. His wealth didn't just come from music. He was involved in distributing drugs, not just using them. That matters to people, especially when fentanyl is involved. Communities have been devastated, and tens of thousands die every year from overdoses. For many, celebrating that history feels wrong. That means the bar is higher now. He has to justify attention with music that actually moves people. Sympathy won't build a comeback. Only undeniable records can rewrite the narrative, and that's the hardest challenge of all. Nostalgia gives a temporary boost, not a long-term lifeline. Curiosity around his return will spark clicks, streams, and conversation early on. But that fades fast if the music doesn't connect. The real question hanging in the air is simple but brutal. Hey, can Fetty Wap still make records people want to replay, not just sample once out of curiosity? Right now, nobody truly knows, and uncertainty is the hardest position in this industry. His supervised release adds another layer of pressure. Random drug tests, full financial transparency, and strict activity limits mean every studio session, every performance, and every business move needs approval from his probation officer. Travel isn't spontaneous, meetings aren't casual, and momentum is harder to build when freedom is restricted. Operating as a full-time artist under federal supervision is possible, but it's way more complicated than fans realize. So this comeback won't be loud or flashy be slow, calculated, and tested by reality at every step. Whether he rises again or fades quietly depends on the music, not the story. And that's where we leave it. If you want more real breakdowns like this, click one of the videos on your screen right now and keep it locked right here.